Let's begin our last unit, unit number 5, called as Exempt Trade under International Business. The contents that we'll be covering in this particular unit is export trade, import trade, exempt policy, balance of payment, and then disequilibrium and measures for rectification. So first let's understand what is a foreign trade. A foreign trade is the exchange of capital, goods, and services across international borders or territories. Now, as we all know, international trade or foreign trade is when your goods or services move out of your country's borders, right? It can be capital, it can be goods, or it can be services. Once it moves beyond a home country's territory, it becomes foreign trade. Now, there are three components of foreign trade. Either you're importing, either you're exporting, or either there's a third category called as entry port trade. Now, import trade is the inflow of goods in a country, where you as a country are importing goods from another country or from a neighboring country. Usually, what does the country import? Something that it cannot produce on its own, right? For example, petroleum. We cannot manufacture or produce oil or petrol in our own country, therefore we import them. Second is export trade, the opposite, what we have in abundance, right? What our home country has in abundance, we will be selling them or exporting them to our neighboring countries in need. The third category is entry port trade. It is also called as re-export. Let's say, for an example, Sri Lanka wants to import certain goods from Nepal. Now, you know the distance between Nepal and Sri Lanka is too long, right? Or let's assume the trade relationship between these two countries are not at good terms. So therefore, in between, we are going to act as a mediator, that is India. So we are going to import from Nepal the same goods, okay, and then ship it or export it to the country Sri Lanka. Let me repeat that. We are importing the goods from Nepal and exporting the same goods to Sri Lanka. Is that clear? Or in short, it is called as re-exporting. So these are the three components of foreign trade. So first, let's look at what is export trade. Now, as we just studied, as we have just discussed, we understand that it is whereby you're selling the goods or shipping the goods from one country to another for further sale or expansion of your business. That's simple. Now let's understand from India's perspective. Now, India is among the world's largest exporters of services related to information and communication technology. Now, widely we call today it as ICT. Also, BPO, that is business process outsourcing. So, in terms of services category, India is one of the leading world large exporters. And it also, we know, India's exporting list consists of majorly agricultural produce, because we know very well aware that India is a very fertile nation, correct? And we are rich in all the agricultural produce. So we definitely are going to export the same engineering and textile products as well. Now next is procedure of export trade. Now this is an important topic from the point of view of an exam, right? So this chapter is majorly focusing on exempt trade, correct? So the major 15 marker questions that you can face in this chapter is explain the procedure of export trade or explain the procedure of import trade. Both holds equal importance. So here we have 6 different procedures or 6 different steps in order for us to trade or export goods from our country to any other. So the first one is called as preliminaries. So under this we have 3 sub-points, which is talking about the first one, importer exporter code number. So every individual or a business that wants to experience international trade must first get its IEC number. Now, as you can see on the picture towards the right side of the slide, you can see the certificate of importer exporter code. So that is a number upon which your transactions will be tracked, okay, by the government or by the country which you are trading with, etc. So the government is going to give each businessman or each individual or a company a special IEC number. And then, of course, you need to be registered and to be a member of certain bodies that is involving with international trade, such as Export Promotion Council, because these are the actual organizations that develop or that provide all kind of support in order for you to increase your exports. Point B, we have inquiry, offer and receipt of confirmed order. Now, what is inquiry in general? Inquiry or offer is in general made a request. So you're making a request, okay? Importer is making a request, okay, to wish or that I would like to import certain goods, okay. So offer is a proposal submitted by the exporter, okay. So what is inquiry? Inquiry is the request made by the importer that I would like to import goods so and so. And what is offer? That is the exporter confirming the inquiry and submitting the proposal. Yes, I accept to export these specified goods with so and so price, quantity, quality, terms and conditions. Second, we have conditions of sale, right? So we need to discuss various conditions, the payment methods, the invoice, the billing, where do I ship, how does the transport procedure, what is is it by air transport or by water transport, etc. All these conditions have to be discussed, especially at what price are you exporting, right? So that has to be very much clear. By what date will you be delivering the goods? So all these features or details of the transaction have to be decided mutually. Third, we have the delivery schedule, right? So once the details or the essential details have been discussed between the exporter importer, then the exporter has to indicate the delivery schedule, right? Because we're not talking about a state to state or a city to city transport. We are talking the transport of one country to another country. It can be like, say, one continent to another continent as well, right? So therefore we need to estimate what would be the delivery schedule or which is the port of destination, etc. Next, we have inspection of goods. So the authority who will conduct the inspection of goods should also be indicated. That means who will be assigned to take care of the delivery of goods or to inspect the quality of goods. Fifth one is force majeure closure or clause. Now here what happens is the exporter has to mention this when he is having mutual agreement with the importer, that in case, right, I accept the transaction or I accept the business deal to export the goods with so and so details, but in case, right, I cannot deliver the goods, it has to be by force, right? Now let's say, what can be by force? Let's say natural calamities, or there is a war between country A and country B. That is, let's say, importer's country and exporter's country. Then can you continue your trade transaction? Definitely not. So force majeure clause is stating that unless and until it is a natural pressure or a natural force such as calamity or a war, etc., I will not be cancelling the agreement. But if it is so, right, natural calamity, I will have to stop my transaction. Next, we have payment terms, right? Are you going to pay by cash? Online immediate payment, or you would like to purchase on credit basis? Those must be agreed upon. Other obligations such as whether exporter is providing you, post sales services, okay, or other spare parts if they want to provide, such as warranty, guarantee, right? All these additional things, okay, other obligations also needs to be specified. Number 8 is a confirmed order. So the buyer sends, okay, I agree upon all the terms, right? The details, the payment method, and the inspection, and all these details is confirmed, and he gives the order to the exporter. Okay, and then we get the export license. The exporter has to obtain the license from the authorities concerned, right? And then we have the 10th one, procuring finance. So if he or she, right, that is the exporter, does not have enough finance, yes, then definitely he can go for a loan, or he can go for a support from export promotion councils, because such organization actually encourage or actually boost up your exports. So you need to procure the adequate finance that is required for the transaction. Third one, we have production and procurement of goods. So once the order is confirmed from the buyer, yes, I'm willing to buy, then the exporting house, right, have obtained the confirmed order. So they start producing the goods or manufacturing the goods as specified in the invoice, okay, or as specified in the above steps. And then begins after the manufacturing, the marking, the packaging, etc. Can you see the picture on the screen? Right, it shows various marks where you need to handle, how you need to handle the package, where you need to hold, you cannot tilt it, the country of origin, that is where or in which country the product has been manufactured, right? The quantity should be mentioned, the price must be mentioned, the weight of the product must be mentioned, destination address must be mentioned, all these marking must be completed. Then we have quality control and pre-shipment inspection. So before it moves to the port or before it moves for shipping, definitely it needs to have a pre-shipment inspection. So as you can see in the picture, right, there is a labor, there is a person who's trying to inspect the goods, right, that is supposed to be exported. If there is any differences from the invoice the importer has placed, right, so you're going to check for the quality and the inspection. And then we have excise duty rebates, that is government has exempted the goods meant for export from imposition of excise duty. So why are they being exempted? Because in order to boost sales, or I would say exports, the government has exempted. Okay, so only for certain goods, not definitely all the goods, certain goods the government has exempted. Next we have shipment. So transporting the goods by ship is cheaper compared to that by air, because not all goods can be carried by air transport. Air transport is a very limited, I would say, by weight, correct? It's limited, but by water transport it's more efficient and much economical. So the exporter has to contact which are the shipping companies, right, if they have enough space for their goods to be shipped, okay, after the order is got confirmed. Then the shipping order will, after checking with the details, will issue the shipping order, depending upon the requirement. And then we have the major step from the shipment procedure, customs clearance, right? So the exporter has to get customs clearance from the authority as they give formal approval after scrutinizing shipping documents. So they go through the entire process and give a final check. Next, point E, we are talking about documents. So what are the various documents required? So we have GR1 form, right? This form is an exchange control document, okay? And this is a compulsory document from the RBI, okay? That is our central bank in India, right? So, so that making sure that exporter can realize the proceeds of the goods exported within 130 days of the shipment. Let me repeat that. This statement or this form is going to enable the exporter to receive or realize the proceeds of the goods exported within 130 days from the date of shipment. And then we have the shipping bill, right, from the customs official, what we just went through, right? What does it say? Permission to shipment, okay? So, and then we have the exporter license, right, which is definitely necessary. Next we have the carting order. What do you mean by carting order? Shipping bill is that you can move from the move the cargo. Carting order is the permission to move the goods physically inside the port area. So from the godown, if it has to move to the port area, then you need carting order. Then number 5, you have customs examination of cargo at docks. So again, there's going to be a checking of products that is to be exported at the docks. So the exporter can arrange for the physical check of the products in his factory or warehouse. Then we have let ship, right? So here the exporter arranges for loading the products on ship. Okay, so thus far we have seen the goods can be moved to the port. Now the goods have to be moved inside of the ship. That's called as let ship order. Then we have the mate's receipt, which is very, very important. So this document is given by the captain of the ship, right? It furnishes the document to the port superintendent. That's why it's called as mate's receipt. You can see it on the picture on the left side, right side, right? It's called as mate receipt, which considers all the details, the seal and signature from the captain of the ship or the authority. Then we have port trust dues, right? So they, after receiving mate's receipt from the captain of the ship, then the port will issue something called as bill of lading. What does that signify? Bill of lading that you can see on the top, it signifies that the goods have been carefully placed and it is being confirmed by the captain of the ship. So this confirmation is given by the port, okay? After the port receives mate's receipt, this form, that is the bill of lading, will be issued to the exporter, okay? And then we have the 5th one called as obtaining export proceeds. That's the last one. So once the shipping is done, the importer has to send or let it be a letter of credit or a bank transaction or NEFT, RTGS. So whatever the payment mode as agreed upon, they should be completing the payment. So that's how the transaction comes to an end. So you have completed 6 different steps in the procedure of foreign trade. Then we have sources of export financing. The first common place that an exporter would go is commercial banks, isn't it? And next we have the Exporter-Importer Bank of India, which is specifically focusing upon exporters and importers. So commercial banks in general can offer a limited amount for exporters, but Exim Bank will give 100% support. And then comes our RBI, that is the Central Bank of India, which functions as a refinancing for short and medium term loans respectively. And then finally, we have the fourth one, Export Credit and Guarantee Corporation. In short, we call it as ECGC, right? So this institution plays an important or a crucial role through various policies and guarantees, providing a cover for these political risk or any kind of commercial risk that is involved in the export trade. So they stand as a guarantee for the transactions to be completed. So today we have studied what is international trade, right? We studied what is export trade, what is the procedure for export trade, and the sources of export financing.